Welcome to another episode of The Office, where our door is always open. Thank you so much for joining us again and for being with us this far. I mean, we're into season 3, so I'm really grateful for, the support and the following that we've had up to this point. Today, I'm going to be talking about a little more than HR. In my experience, we have a responsibility as HR persons to assist organizations, not just with the people management aspect, but bringing all the pieces together and helping the organizations do a better job of managing the operations as well. So we cannot effectively do that if we don't focus on the people, and we cannot effectively manage the people if we don't focus on the processes. So today we will be discussing quality management systems. And I have with me a lady who is very versed in that area, and she's going to help break down that topic and really shed some light and raise the awareness about what that means and how it can bring value to our businesses. Okay, so I am joined by Miss Betty Comby. Welcome, Betty. Thank you so much for joining me here at the office.
Pleasure is mine.
All right, so for our viewers who do not know who Betty Comby is, maybe we should start off by just allowing you to give us a little background.
Sure. Betty Comby, I spent almost 25 years working with the Ministry of Education. At that point, I coordinated common entrance exams and minimum standards exams at different times. During 4 of those years, I spent at the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, which was where I got involved in quality and standards. A very empowering experience, which I want to share as much as possible with everyone who's ready to listen.
All right, so today we're talking about something you're really, really passionate about, I know. And I think we need to start the conversation by, first of all, defining for our viewers what quality management system is, or QMS as we know. What is it, first and foremost?
Okay, quality management systems, or as you said, QMS is for short. It's a tool, it's a technique, it's a method that's used to systematically achieve the objectives of an organization, but with a focus on meeting the needs and expectations of customers, bottom line.
Yeah, so it's centered around the whole customer experience.
Yes, without a doubt. It starts off with the customer and it ends with the customer.
Right. All right, we need to take a break now, but when we come back, we're going to go into a little more detail around what QMS is and, the value that it brings to the business and why we should even be having this conversation. So don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
The Office is brought to you by Renwick & Company Limited, Multi-Graphics powered by Expert Group and the Goddard Catering Group.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying with us. So in today's episode, we're discussing QMS, or Quality Management Systems, and I'm joined by Miss Betty Comby, who is going to help discuss and break down this whole topic and help us understand a little more about it and the value that it brings to our businesses. Okay, so before the break, Betty was just giving us the definition of what QMS is, and we learned that it is all about the customer experience, so it's very customer centric. So we're going to go into a little more detail now, and Betty, can you tell our viewers what does QMS really bring to our organizations, and why should we even focus on doing that?
When it comes to QMS, I tell organizations, do the litmus test. And my litmus test is you need to ask yourself as an organization, are you achieving your objectives? If you are, then more than likely you probably have a system like that in place.
Right.
You need to ask yourself questions like, are you in a general mode of being proactive? Are your staff thinking ahead versus always reacting? And if you're doing that, more than likely you have the system in place.
Right.
Generally, is your staff satisfied? Are you ensuring that you're enhancing their competence? Is your attrition rate low? If that is the case, more than likely you have a system in place. And lastly, it's the customers. Are the customers coming back? Are the customers advocating for you? And if that is happening, then you have a QMS in place.
Right.
If any of these things are lacking, needs improvement, then you want to consider looking at the requirements of a quality management system. And it's nothing new. I mean, this has been around for a long time, from as way back as the 1950s, at the point when they used to call it total quality management.
Right.
But when the international standard came in the 1987, then the term QMS was what was being used.
Yeah, so for companies who will say to you, I mean, we've been operating a certain way for a long time, you know, we're making sales, we're generating revenue, everything is fine. To them, what do you say as it relates to a need to really focus on determine whether or not they have a QMS in place?
Well, it's one thing to be making sales, but again, you need to look at the organization from different perspectives. It's never just about sales. It's also looking at what's happening with your customers, what's happening with your staff. And my thing is, if you are satisfied with all of these criteria, then you are safe. Because I stress again that some people, this is called business common sense, first of all. And you have to understand it was not something that was invented, but it was something that was realized from just observing how companies were operating and getting the results they want.
Right.
So if you're getting the results you want as far as it concerns your targets, as far as your customers are concerned, as far as being, you know, risk conscious, then I say you don't need this. You're doing well.
So for an organization that wants to, I guess, assess how well they're doing against something, some standard, what would you recommend?
The quality management system standard, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, like anything else, improvement is a strategy whereby first you assess yourself against where you want to be. And QMS is a best practice, right? So you assess yourself against this best practice and then you start closing your gaps.
Right.
But in closing your gaps, what you use is the operating principle of QMS, which is PDCA, plan, do, check, act. So if you're managing it well, you're doing plan, do, check, act continuously, and everyone is using that particular tool.
Right. So for a company that's listening to us and wants to, you know, assess how well they are doing, what's the steps that they can take, or where can they go? What is the process?
For instance, my company offers this as well, and the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards can do it as well, where we can assess you against the best practice requirement. As far as my company is concerned, we can also provide the technical assistance, so we can assist you to close the gaps. The Bureau as a regulatory body would be limited in that sense, but as a consultant, I can do that as well, to help you close the gaps that you have recognized in your system.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about your company now.
Okay, my company is entitled Moores Inc. I've been operating for over 5 years now. My best seller is really my training, but QMS is my strength. So I do a lot of training in QMS as well as QMS related topics. So for instance, operational effectiveness, for instance, strategic planning, because that's another thing about QMS. QMS is a tool you can use to deploy your strategic plan. So I do strategic planning sessions as well. I do customer satisfaction. Like I keep telling people, it's customer satisfaction, I do not customer service. My issue with customer service is a focus on what people are doing, whereas customer satisfaction is what the customer is receiving. And that's really that change in mindset we want. We want a mindset where the focus is on what the customer is receiving and not just what you are doing.
Yeah. Okay. For companies who probably have a QMS system in place but don't even realize that they have it, what would you highlight as some of the key things that they need to look out for to be able to determine whether or not they even need help?
If they think they have a QMS in place, one thing is, and like I said, it's about, are you achieving your objectives? Generally, are you achieving? Are you meeting your targets generally, right? You want to look at your customers in particular. Are your customers coming back?
Yes, but you know, I think we need to look a little deeper, because sometimes people may be achieving their objectives, but the objectives may not be the right objectives.
Noted. A very good point. Very good point. That's where you look at, and I like to talk about that balanced scorecard approach. You need to look at the health of your organization from different perspectives. And so the perspective is not just the financial, the financial, the customers, your staff, right? And how you're growing as an organization.
Right.
So when it comes to the health of an organization, you must look at your organization from those different perspectives.
We're really starting from the strategic planning point,
without a
because
doubt.
we have to highlight the fact that any organization that needs to be or that expects to be run effectively needs to have a strategic plan.
Yes.
And that strategic plan must be comprehensive in the sense that you must know what your marketing plan is, what your finance, what your HR, what else, operations. All the different components have to come together. So
that's right.
So that's why I'm a little concerned that persons may not necessarily clearly understand. Even if you are meeting your objectives, the objectives may not necessarily be the most smart or the best.
Well, you use the word smart. That on the whole, from the very beginning, your objectives had to be smart. And the R in smart is that it is relevant.
That's right.
Relevant meaning it's aligned to your organizational goal and your strategic plan.
Yeah.
That's right. So that is the beautiful thing about QMS too, is that it forces you to create those smart objectives which have to be linked to your strategic plan.
Yes.
So by using this system, you are at the same time achieving the goals of your strategic plan.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so we do need to take another break, Betty.
Okay.
Viewers, stay with us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the office. Thank you so much for staying with us. Before the break, we were talking about the need for smart objectives and having a very clearly defined business strategy. And, that is important for the success of any organization. So anybody who's starting, any entrepreneur who's about to open their business, everybody would make reference to, you need to have a business plan. And, some people are like, why do I have to go through that problem of preparing a business plan? Is because if you have a clearly defined business plan, it is easier for you to align the different components and bring the pieces of your organization together in support, and to have a successful business.
That's right.
So Betty, after persons have prepared their business plan, agreed their strategy, they know what the goals are that they're focused on, what do you think is the next step that they need to take? Bearing in mind we're talking QMS and making sure that, from the very beginning, everything is aligned.
That's right, and everything is being done right.
Mm-hmm.
Smart objectives is just one component of the plan. I mean, we know that we grew up, our parents used to tell us, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, right? And so in any organization, there should be two levels of planning, your strategic plan and your operational plan, right? Your business plan will bring in your finances, as well as some strategic component. But key is that where you're going, and your staff needs to know that. Your staff needs to know where you're taking them to. That's the only way they can come on board and be committed.
Right.
So
you recommend the vision, mission, core values.
Well, that would be part of your strategic plan,
right?
And the whole thing about QMS is it stresses leadership. So there are a number of principles, 7 of them, but we can talk about it later. But in particular, the operating principle is the plan, do, check, act principle. For everything you do, you must plan. And we know that, we have been taught that from years. I tell people, they used to teach us writing as a process at school. And they'll tell you, before you write the essay, you need to plan it.
Yes.
You need to write it.
Yeah.
You need to then proofread it, do the checks, and then do the editing. It's the same thing. It's PDCA.
Yeah.
Those of you who have done project management, you tell you there's a project is a start, there is an end, and in between there, what are you doing? You're doing planning, you're doing implementing or executing, you're doing monitoring, controlling.
Right.
That's plan, do, check, act.
Yes.
Right? And so once you have a comprehensive plan, the next step is to implement that comprehensive plan. And your plan is not just about smart objectives, it's also understanding the context in which you're operating. And that's where SWOT analysis comes in. That's where PES analysis comes in, right? So you have your situation analysis done, right? And then you come up with strategies and goals. So you identify your goals and then come up with strategies as to how you're going to achieve those goals. And then you go on finally to those smart objectives that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and that word R is relevant. Some people say realistic.
Yeah, but
I tell them, no, it's relevant.
That's right, because it has to be relevant to your strategy. Why are you even in business?
Exactly. Yeah. If you miss that R, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Right? You would never achieve the strategic plan unless you have that R in it, and the T is time bound.
Yeah, when I do performance management processes for clients, I focus on that R as relevant, because for me the strategic alignment is absolutely key. So that's where it comes in. Your
right.
Every single thing you do throughout the organization must be linked back to that strategy.
You're very right. Yeah. And every employee has to understand how they are contributing to that particular strategy.
That's right.
Yeah, and if that's not the situation in your organization, then definitely you can do some QMS.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the companies, I want to say that for the companies that are not focusing on performance management and focusing on ensuring that there's an open door policy and everybody is aware of what's happening in the business. You see how we're contributing to the problems that we're creating?
Yes.
So everybody has to be on board. All your staff needs to know,
That's right.
they need to know what's happening in the business.
That's
Otherwise,
right.
how do they understand how their role impacts
What
the
you're
big
trying
picture?
to achieve.
Yeah.
That's right.
And in most cases, when we have disagreement between management and staff, is because there's that disalignment. The staff don't really understand what their role is in comparison to that big picture.
And they should. And that's why I tell you communication is the lifeblood of an organization.
Of
like some
everything.
people say, of everything,
Yes.
especially of it, right?
Yes.
Of an organization, of a relationship.
Yes,
I keep
everything.
stressing that, yes.
Yes.
And
But
as we talk in relationship correctly. I mean, we
Yes.
have to talk relation and the importance of QMS just to relationships.
Exactly.
Because one of the principles, and which is my most favorite principle when it comes to QMS, is relationship management.
Yeah.
And I tell people that is the usefulness of this tool. That this tool now, because remember what I said, it's about meeting needs and expectations of the customer. But then your customer now becomes a recipient. Anybody who is receiving a service from you is a recipient.
Yeah.
And relationships that are maintained a relationship where needs and expectations continue to be met.
Yeah.
So the recipient is now your child.
That's right. Your
Your husband, your
boyfriend.
significant other. And so that's the value of this thing that I think people are not, for instance, St. Lucia University, I will not spread that to you, but I'm telling you about this. I am using this thing in my relationship with my husband. I'm using it in a relationship with my children.
Yeah.
This is the applicability of this particular
You
tool.
see, so viewers,
and hence the passion.
Viewers, there you have it. There you have it. If you do the QMS training,
Yes.
you could utilize it in every aspect of your life. That's the beauty
Yes.
of it.
Yes.
It's not just about business. It's about how you interact with every person and every unit, every part of the organization, everything. It all comes together.
Yes, it definitely brings everything together, without
Yeah.
a doubt.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like everybody should devote the time and the resources into ensuring that, they have a good QMS within their organizations if they
Yes.
really want to see, the organization progress. I know you offer the training, so tell us a little bit about the training and how persons can sign up for it and,
Well, Gret will probably provide you with, you can always call Gret to get information, but my company is Moores. I have a website, so if you just type in Moores and Betty Combi, you'll get information about me on my website. I do training at the managerial level, the senior level, but also the line staff. Like I say, any management system, be it quality, be it environmental, be it energy management, the bottom or the operating principle is the PDCA cycle.
Yeah.
And so I do training for line staff that I call doing work well, right? That just everybody, I mean, when we tell our children, you can do it better. We, as parents, we tend to do that. You can do better. They bring home a report book, you can do better. And nobody's telling them, how do you do better? PDCA is how do you do better with anything?
Right.
Be it at work, be it at home, PDCA is what you use. And so I have this special program that I have designed, which I call Doing Work Well, which is available that I train line staff in. But as far as the managers, senior people, I suggest the quality management training.
Okay, excellent. Well, I highly recommend that person sign up for this because I can clearly see the value in it. I mean, we've had numerous conversations about QMS,
Yes.
so I appreciate the value, and I hope that our listeners and viewers after watching this episode are going to see the value as well. So we do need to take another break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. Betty, our time is quickly coming to an end. So before we close, I want to just take a moment to reiterate the value that QMS can bring to our organizations, because I want our organizations out there to really put into practice this QMS and all the principles associated with it so that we can see more successful businesses in Lucia. So just, as we come to a close, can you just highlight for us what is the value that organizations tend to see coming from the QMS process?
As far as businesses, like I mentioned, globally this is recognized as, this is called business common sense. For business, what we're talking about is your customer being so satisfied that they're coming back, that they're out there advocating for you. So with this using QMS, what you expect is increased customer satisfaction. And increased customer satisfaction is going to result in increased sales. Also, because what you're doing for the customer is producing a product or service, then the focus of QMS is also on your operations. How well are you producing that product or service for the customer? And so it also helps as far as increasing your operational effectiveness and efficiency.
Right.
So you're spending less, right? And so if you're spending less and you're making more, it's going to affect your bottom line.
That's right.
And that's just for the business. On the whole, for organizations, I say that whatever your objectives are, be you for profit or not for profit, be you private, be you a public sector, you have set objectives for your organization, and you have to have some sort of assurance that you can achieve those objectives.
That's right.
And QMS is a systematic way to ensure that you achieve the objectives. Again, with the focus on making sure you keep your customer or your clients satisfied.
Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line at the end of the day.
Without a doubt.
You're
Without a
nothing.
doubt.
You're nothing without your customers.
That's
So,
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so I want to just encourage our businesses out there, to take advantage of this program. I mean, Betty is offering the QMS training. I think that more persons should, sign on to that training.
We have the session coming up, Empower.
Yes, actually
talk
we
about
do
that.
have our HR forum in March.
March 20th.
Yes, on March 20th, it's going to be at the Finance Administrative Center. And at that forum, we will be going into a little more detail around, the whole QMS conversation, and really highlighting and empowering our business owners and our HR leaders,
That's right.
to make better use of the QMS. And hopefully that will have a positive impact, once persons actually implement and put into practice what it is that they cover. That we will
right.
see that ripple effect in our businesses. And that's what we really want for our businesses to do better. Yeah.
To grow. That's right.
Yep.
A point to be made just before we leave is when we talk about competence of personnel, we look at technical and we look at soft skills. The beautiful thing about QMS is it has a foot in each.
Yeah.
So it's a basic technical skill as well as it's a basic soft skill.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Betty. It was a
Pleasure was
pleasure
mine.
having
Same here.
you. Thank you.
Always a pleasure discussing QMS, Gracie.
Yes. All right. So, viewers, thank you so much for staying with us. Until next time, follow us on social media at HRWise Inc. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. So just keep following so you can see all the good things we have coming up. We will soon be turning 5, so watch out. We have some good stuff coming your way. So until next time, take care.